Well, what is up everybody? Welcome back to another one of my weird review type videos where today we're looking at this, a professional audio interface. Now, I bought this thing to solve a really weird specific problem. So if you know a lot about the content I've posted in the past, I have a big old 16 channel mixing board. I've posted like 2 reviews about it. One of them was one where I'd actually clarified some information about the first review, because the first review was so horrible it needed to be clarified. And the big issue is that it doesn't really record in stereo, which is not that great. Well, it acts like it does. Like when you go into system settings, you go into everything, you go into Audacity, you mess with the requisite settings, everything shows that it is in stereo. To mitigate that, I've been using my old laptop, and if you know anything about laptops from like the 2010s and earlier, you may know that they have like 2 headphone jacks on them, typically one for recording input and also as a headphone out. But unfortunately, my new laptop doesn't have that feature, and judging by the fact that the framework audio interface card is really more of just an output with a 4th pin for input, which also means mono, we need one of these. So I went out and bought one, and it arrived ever so slightly before the actual computer arrived, so we're reviewing it now. So let's get this unboxed. A manual, which is half US, half German. Now, as you can see by the name, it's one of those no-name brands, in this case NUOSIYA. I'll have a list posted of all the other common names that I found this listed under, so you can go and look into it. But you can see how, introduction, it's got all the things, 1/4 inch, all that, and the other half is in German. When we get here, we'll look at all the accessories they threw in. So you get yourself a USB Type-A cable and a Type-C to Type-A cable, which we will understand what's up with that in a short while. And they've also thrown in this really nice bit of what is this? It's the OTG cable. They threw in one of these things, and finally they threw in one of these 3.5mm headphone adapters. Bit of a weird design, but I'll keep that around. Those will be good for the headphones I use. And finally, here's the actual interface itself, all in plastic wrap. Fortunately, it's giving a hell of a glare in it, so let's remove this packaging. There we go. First impressions on this thing. So it's pretty nice, actually. Nice build quality. This is like actual metal, and it's pretty good for what it is. You got your standard array of clicky buttons like these. Fortunately, it is not focusing very well. Yeah, looking down on it, it's actually a pretty nice thing. You've got a little mix type thing. It's like a crossfade by the looks of things. So it's like, I guess, monitor how your inputs and DAW. It's more useful for this headphone amp here, which is controlled by this potentiometer, I guess. I don't think I really need all that. Output and gain, yeah, and then there's a low cut. There's also a high impedance one there for if you have a guitar, I guess. And there we go. Yeah, on the back you've got quite the standard array of other things here, like you got your on-off for your phantom preamp for the XLR connectors, which indicates this green LED up front. And of course you got power source on-off. I'm going to turn it off because in my use case I'm not going to use the phantom preamp. And of course there's a USB-C and a USB Type-C connection. I believe the Type-C is like a power-only type deal, and I think I understand that it's probably doing that so it could run the power through the phantom preamp and do it well and do it quickly, because usually these things try and warm up or ramp up and all that. So that's something that it can do. It'll do. Otherwise, it's not that horrible. So let's go and get it tested.
Alright, so now you are currently hearing me through this new audio interface, and right now I've got my mic plugged into the left channel. Currently, I'm recording it onto Audacity with my old laptop running Linux.
Editor's note, the whole point of getting this and testing it is, like a lot of the things I review on this channel, is to test if things are working on Linux. So that's going to be brought up a lot. I forgot to really mention it in the original cut.
It does actually record perfectly fine and record in stereo, which is perfect. And it is set up for that. And in Audacity, if I were to show the original waveform, which you should be seeing a very, very active peak on the left channel, but not very much on the right channel. This is good because this means that everything is ready for stereo and perfectly fine with Linux. And right now I'm recording it at 88.2 kilohertz for sampling rate. And this thing can do up to 192, so this is only like half of its actual power. And it's doing a pretty decent job of it. So all in all, I'm kind of liking this thing. One thing I don't really like, though, are these potentiometers. They're a bit of a... They're the rubber-coated ones, so they're a nice tactile grip as of now, but I could only imagine in a few years when these things will start getting a little bit grungy and icky. They're a bit... So that's something to be forewarned about, and there we go. The headphone amp is about the same as the other mixer that I was using.
Now, what I mean by that specifically is that the headphone amp in this thing is pretty decent for most headphones, but don't expect it to drive anything like, I'd say, greater than 100 ohms with it. But otherwise, it's pretty decent.
I was scared for a second when I first plugged it in, tried out audio. Like, I tried watching a few YouTube videos on it just now, and it turns out that this fader was what was to blame. Out of the box, they have it set to monitoring the input, so monitoring the mic connection. And I could hear it through the left channel if I turn up the headphone amp. I didn't think of that, and I thought that, oh no, it's not ready for Linux because it doesn't work. But then I just flipped it all the way to the right, which set it to DAW mode, so now
I am getting a proper audio signal from it and not anything else. Now, right after I said that, I did immediately make a little bit of a mistake and an assumption that that knob actually only affects the headphones. It affects both the headphones and the 1/4-inch outputs on the back. Something that I realized when I was using it with my mixing board, so just something to note there. Now, the peak meters on this thing are kind of interesting. So what they did is that they used a multicolor LED, so if you have a green light on the peak indicator, it means that you're kind of clipping, but not clipping too much. And you get a red one if you are really clipping and you really need to tone it down. It's a really interesting feature. I feel like green's a little bit of an odd color to use to say, hey, you really need to get a little bit quieter, because normally I'd associate that with like, oh, hey, we can hear you here, you know. I am re-recording this segment right now because I got like really loud in that one, and it would have been very annoying to edit around, so saved y'all's the hassle. Now, all things considered, how would I rate this device? Well, for starters, it's a pretty decent device. Really, there are some minor nitpicks that I have about how they built the thing, but it seems to be pretty solid, good for the price, and seems to work out just fine. Only other problems I've really had with it, and I'm recording this at time of editing, and the only problems I've had with it really have to do with my new laptop more than the audio interface itself. For some reason, compared to a lot of the other audio interfaces that I have, at least, devices that are similar to it, it definitely does not like to be recognized by my laptop unless it's like powered externally, like through the USB-C port. make of that what you will, but it might just be a framework issue or an issue with the specific distro I use. I am using it through a USB-C dock, so that might have something to do with it. Right now I'm not all that sure, but anyways, I'm not too sure what to say about it. As for a numerical rating, I'm going to give it a 8.5 to 9. It does the job great. It's definitely a very good audio interface. When it works great. It supports everything. It even has stuff that's better than advertised. So that's the great part. It works with my workflow. I have not much really bad things to say about it other than those nitpicks that I really pointed out and issues that aren't really associated with it. So it's pretty decent. I'll have links below, kind of, or at least a list of the companies that make these things, because this is one of those products that's so cheap, so ubiquitous, that there are so many companies that are just making the same design and selling it under everything. So I'll have the description, I'll have the names and stuff in the description for you to look at. So yeah. But with that being said, that's it for today's episode. If you like what you saw, there's a like button and a subscribe button. Not sure how many more of these videos I'm going to do. There might be at least one. I am currently recording this with a new mic, so you might get a review of that at some point. But other than that, I also do gaming content and content where I mess around with random bits of electronics and sometimes make my own. This is a random dumping ground channel, and your likes and subscriptions let me know what kinds of videos you want to see more of, and better inform me on how I should really steer this channel. But with that being said, that's it for today's video, and bye.